There is a significant revival of the uranium market on a global scale, and in this video I'll be your guide and take you on a tour about the bullish potential of the uranium market and how junior players in the scene factor in. How does Uranium Royalty Corp offer the perfect model for the emerging uranium mining and nuclear energy market? We're about to find out in a moment, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Before color TVs and personal computers, there was no access to the internet, cellular phones, no electric cars, no space missions, and not even low-cost airlines. And in the middle of all that divide, one of Britain's foremost, if not its most influential music group ever, which virtually nobody believed in at the time, became a global success story. The four-person English rock band out of Liverpool, the Beatles, reached world fame in just a few years. Yet, after the assassination of the group's founder, co-songwriter and co-lead vocalist and rhythm guitarist John Lennon, it wasn't until that time that the second man in command, Paul McCartney, became the most famous member of the band. This entire journey changed rock music for good. Since McCartney's career spans over half a century, unknown to many, this musical genius is not only into strings, music, and notes, but is also a businessman, way more than he is a singer or a bass player. This explains why his other band members like Ringo Starr and George Harrison were far less wealthy than he was. Have you ever wondered why? It doesn't come from inherited wealth or stashed up cash, but consistent earnings. McCartney earns, in approximate terms, $6 million per month, or $200,000 each day, and $10,000 every hour for every single day. How is he able to do that? Well, in simple terms, royalties. Given McCartney's extensive portfolio of songs and the publishing rights of artists like Buddy Holly, he can amass a large amount of wealth through royalties, which make up a significant percentage of his wealth. This precisely brings us to my point. Earning royalties is a creator's ticket to making unfathomable wealth. As long as the content created is still in relevance and keeps generating value, the originator enjoys certain benefits for a lifetime, as royalties go on forever. With that in mind, the founders of Uranium Royalty Corp., the first and only company to successfully apply the royalty and streaming business model employed by business moguls in the music industry exclusively to the uranium sector. And given that there's been a worldwide uranium revival and it is a critical era for an essential energy resource, Uranium Royalty Corp., which trades on the Nasdaq as UROY, focuses on gaining exposure to uranium prices by making strategic investments in uranium interests, including but not limited to royalties, streams, debt, and equity in uranium companies, as well as through potential physical uranium transactions. The commodity boom in the uranium market has been nothing less than explosive, and it has its benefits and drawbacks. There's an authentic experience of pain at the gasoline pump because a rare confluence of events has pushed oil prices to fresh short-term highs. And as one of the critical commodities and energy sources in the world, as a single razor-sized uranium pellet contains the same amount of energy as 120 gallons of oil or 17,000 cubic feet of natural gas, the threat of a uranium supply crunch beyond what's already a global deficit has added fuel to the already powerful rally in both the uranium price and the prices of companies that mine it. Employing the business framework of conventional metal royalty and streaming companies, Uranium Royalty Corp. Provides funds to mines in exchange for future payoffs. At the same time, the designation of a royalty entitles its holders to a fixed percentage of the total revenue generated from the mine, excluding of course certain expenses, otherwise known as royalties, entitles the holder to a portion of physical metals produced by the mines, known as streams. Following President Joe Biden, it's also instituting an indiscriminate international ban on trade between Russia and every other country. With the help of the United Nations and NATO, of course, and the Russian government's retaliation to ban all exports to these other countries. This has prompted a significant leap in spot uranium prices, which have increased by more than 30% since the start of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And since Russia enjoys one of the most significant uranium exports in the history of the world, as it accounts for more than 16% of the total uranium imports into the US, and is essentially the third largest uranium supplier to the US, and the Russian uranium enrichment accounting for more than 35% of the global market, there's been an increased need for other world players to step up their game. The only U.S. uranium conversion and enrichment plant in Illinois has been idle since 2017, though it is reportedly scheduled to come back online in 2023. It's still genuinely, truly unsettling to learn that nuclear power plants account for roughly 20% of the electricity generated in the U.S., yet domestic uranium output is minuscule. Meanwhile, other world powers like China have mega uranium conversion and enrichment plants. However, the nation typically supplies its reactors instead of exporting to other countries. Given that the United States imports more than 90% of the uranium that it uses, and as you can imagine, the value propositions of a uranium royalty and streaming company like Uranium Royalty Corp., with a proven team and a proven approach, are huge. We can see how that is evident. Since the company's initial public offering in January 2020, the uranium royalty stocks have taken flight by more than 515% in less than 2 years. In 2021 alone, shares rallied to about 378%. In contrast, research finds that the numbers would be geometrically multiplied should all the ripple effects of the war between two of the world's top 10 exporters of uranium, Russia and Ukraine, entirely take shape. According to a recent interview with the group's CEO, in addition to retail investors itching around the uranium sector, with such events as Russia being called in to tackle the political unrest in Kazakhstan and garner more foothold over the uranium-rich nation, as well as the Kremlin's invasion of Ukraine and subsequent trade ban being imposed on Russia by the world powers, the total supply of uranium reduces drastically as the demand increases. And amid geopolitical tensions and a world leaning heavier towards nuclear energy, uranium is now at a record high at $58 per pound. According to Trading Economics, the uranium stock fell to $61.75 per pound from its 11-year high of $64.5 on Wednesday, the 13th of April, hence tracking lower energy commodity prices with the expectations of higher interest rates and global growth apprehensions lowered the energy demand. Yet the cost of energy stocks remains 40% higher than levels before Russia invaded Ukraine. URC's portfolio includes interests in developing advanced uranium projects in multiple jurisdictions. The company has a strategic investment in London-listed Yellowcake, a company that has a long-term supply agreement with Kazakhstan-based atomic company and the world's largest uranium producer, Kazatomprom. This supply agreement enables Yellowcake to purchase up to $1 billion, including existing purchases of uranium from Kazatomprom over 10 years. Yellowcake has long completed its initial investment of uranium, acquiring a significant amount of 8.1 million pounds of U3O8. Additionally, since the initial investment, Yellowcake has purchased an additional 0.35 million pounds of U3O8 from Kazatomprom for $8.2 million and 1.175 million pounds for $30.4 million. So why do you need to invest in uranium royalty stock? If the market, as mentioned earlier, doesn't fascinate you, maybe the following might. URC enjoys such recognition as being the first movers of pure-play uranium royalty exposure. They're a team with extensive uranium industry experience, knowledge, and access. And a royalty portfolio covers various development projects in critical jurisdictions with leading industry players as partners amid a robust uranium demand and curtailed mine production rebalancing market fundamentals. The company understands that with nuclear energy gaining broader acceptance in a carbon-constrained world, challenging market conditions create mutually beneficial royalty financing opportunities, just as market fundamentals continue to improve with a growing deficit between primary production and reactor requirements. There's also a $1.5 billion fund for a strategic uranium reserve over 10 years for U.S. domestic uranium and conversion, as $75 million in appropriations are expected for the fiscal year in 2022. So what do you say, yay or nay? I advise, of course, you do your due diligence before delving into any of this or any other investment opportunity. If you expect to make huge profits on stocks and equities, I can assure you that the uranium royalty stock is your best bet. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, check out the links in the video description. And we'll see you in the next video.
Hollywood car set.